Anthony Mackie, however inadvertently it may have been, torpedoed Captain America Brave New World by way of speaking out of turn in front of a live microphone. His comments went viral, and since then he has further spoken out to clarify his stance. As we shall see, that only served to open up several new cans of worms. Let's dive in. As we saw in a recent video, Anthony Mackie caused an unexpected headache for Disney when his comments about America started floating around social media, and after the big entertainment news outlets picked up on it. Even the rest of the mainstream media followed suit, making his comments go global. What this means is the general audience got wind of this, not just the geek audience, if you will. In the current climate where Trump is enjoying his highest approval rating of all time, this did not sit well with most, and the backlash was swift, causing Anthony Mackie to quickly put out a statement that seemed to address those earlier comments. Let's see what the Hollywood Reporter had to say about that, with a headline and subheadline that read, "Captain America Brave New World shows Disney can't escape the culture wars." While the studio desperately tries to avoid politics, the stars of the upcoming Captain America movie and Spider-Man TV show are making waves by just barely slipping off message. The Spider-Man TV show they're referring to is the more recent animated one, but more on that at another time. We're here for Captain America and Mackie, so let's stick to that subject for the moment. The article reads, "Depending on how you look at it, the quote was either totally innocuous or a major PR nightmare. It's the latter, that's why we're here. When Captain America Brave New World star Anthony Mackie was promoting the upcoming Marvel sequel at a press event in Italy, he said, 'To me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term America should be one of those representations. It's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity, someone who is trustworthy and dependable.' Mackie posted a clarification on Instagram faster than Cap hurling his shield. 'Let me be clear about this,' he wrote Tuesday. 'I'm a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I have the utmost respect for those who serve and who have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to.' Note how that was a total deflection, not at all addressing any of the actual complaints about his initial statement, which were about him excluding America from the good characteristics of the man. The piece continues, editorializing Mackie's non-apology, which is, quite likely, precisely how Mackie originally meant it. The MCU's previous Cap, Chris Evans, gave a very similar quote while promoting Captain America back in 2011. 'I'm not trying to get too lost in the American side of it. This isn't a flag-waving movie. He should just be called Captain Dud.' The sentiment is almost certainly part of Disney Marvel's infamous media training for the 85-year-old character. Emphasize the Cap's positive universal qualities, not his specifica Americanness, which comes with potentially jingoistic associations, particularly when promoting the movie overseas. Yet all it takes is a slight tweak of phrasing for a statement to shift from a bland press junket quote to a comment that gets Hulk smashed on social media. Note how they're trying to conflate what Mackie said now with what Evans was trained to say to promote the original Captain America 15 years ago, but that is comparing apples and oranges. Many have issues with what Evans said back then, and rightfully so, yet they arguably were on the money with regards to selling the movie internationally back then. In the aftermath of the Bush era, America's esteem and respect around the world had never been lower, and even international comic book fans largely considered Captain America to be a joke, in no small part because they never gave his stories a chance to begin with, because of the perceived jingoism. That first movie had a major uphill struggle to sell international audiences on the Captain America moniker and costume, and to its credit, it succeeded. The international approval of Captain America as a character was cemented by the sequel, The Winter Soldier, where Steve Rogers, being someone from a completely different era, stood by his principles and values and pushed back against the current political atmosphere, the very atmosphere which had made Captain America a hard sell to begin with. After that, Captain America was fully embraced and accepted worldwide, every bit as much as Iron Man and Thor. At that point in time, the hurdle had been overcome. There was no further need to distance Captain America from the real-world politics anymore, anywhere. Since then, everyone has known who Captain America is and what he stands for. Also, we now live in a politically much different world anyway, as we enter the Trump 2.0 years. We recently did a set of videos on the reaction to Hollywood and the Trump presidential win, and how they're now trying to cope with moving forward. This cope, on top of LA literally burning down in recent weeks, has not been good for the DEI initiative and the woke agenda that has plagued Hollywood for over a decade now, or rather that Hollywood has been plaguing the rest of the world with. All of which is to say that Mackie's Captain America comes at a much different time and with a much different set of circumstances to boot. There is no comparison between what Evan said 15 years ago with what Mackie said today. On the contrary, what he said was in line with much of the anti-American sentiment that has been expressed at university campuses all over America in the past decade in particular, which is another beast altogether. Before we move into the rest of the political controversy around Mackie and the film, let's see what else the Hollywood Reporter had to say about the non-apology. Their write-up continues. Even with the clarification, the film has received backlash as some seek to brand the movie as the latest anti-American and woke garbage from Disney at the time when, ironically, CEO Bob Iger has made it clear for nearly a year that he'd prefer the company avoid any more culture war drama. This, of course, is partially true. Iger has been hobnobbing with Trump, reportedly alongside the rest of the Hollywood brass, as we covered in a recent video. But all of that was in the past year. This movie was developed when Iger, and therefore the rest of Disney, went all in on culture wars all the time, putting DEI and the message first at every opportunity. And indeed, this whole movie started out as an anti-Trump allegory. Allegedly, but I digress. The story continues. Yet Brave New World nonetheless provides an easy target for those looking to read too much into things and use the film for metaphorical comparisons on both sides of the political spectrum. As President Donald Trump hands out paradigm-shifting executive orders, Brave New World offers up Harrison Ford as a power-mad US president who turns into Red Hulk, wrecking everything in sight. There's also an assassination attempt on Ford's character, which was removed from the film's trailer in July after the attempt on Trump's life. The film was originally subtitled New World Order, and you can imagine how much fun the anti-globalist conspiracy crowd would have had with that one. Yeah, the assassination bit seems like more of a coincidence, but that being said, nothing else here really works in this movie's favor. Hollywood in general, and Disney in particular, have been apparatchiks for the Democrat Party, being anti-Trump and going against traditional family values for a decade now, so any audience assumptions about the movie are entirely justified. I'm also not so sure you have to be a member of the so-called anti-globalist conspiracy crowd to see these things for what they really are, or were. Because that's the thing, as we covered in our recent video, the movie was supposed to be out a year ago. That's right, this movie has been made and remade 3 times over now. We can safely assume that like Inside Out and Moana, the company has removed any possible material that could turn off the general audience, but will that still be enough? Let's see what else the article has to say. Another very ugly part of the Brave New World backlash is that Mackie's Sam Wilson promotion to Captain America is getting dubbed on X as a DEI move.
Here it comes.
Particularly in the wake of Trump's anti-DEI rhetoric and his executive orders making DEI-related government hiring changes. This is despite Evan's Steve Rogers having a fulfilling arc as Captain America, and then passing the shield to a logical successor in Mackie's character, who then starred in a hit 2021 Disney Plus series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Wilson wrestled with the very issue of whether he was the right man to become the next Cap. The TDS is on full display here, and I'm not so sure how much of a hit Falcon and the Winter Soldier really was. But let's finish up this part before we break this down. Marvel's handover, in other words, felt considered, gradual, and earned, far more than it arguably needed to be for a comic book franchise that routinely makes sudden creative changes. Whether you appreciate Mackie's take on Cap or no, the man has been in the MCU since 2014 and has put in plenty of hours. Tracking on the new film, which opens February 14th, certainly doesn't seem to be impacted by any of this, Brave New World is headed for a very good 90 million US box office opening. First, let's keep that projection in mind for when opening weekend actually comes. And secondly, this is where they're trying to gaslight you. As gradual and earned as the mantle may have been, Sam already had the mantle as Falcon, a beloved character in his own right. Arguably, Falcon should have had a standalone movie years ago, but much like Black Widow, too little, too late. Here we are now, with the hand-me-down superheroes, and this, as we covered in the last video, is a big part of the problem. We already have a Captain America, and if you really feel the need to pass the mantle, it's nearly universal among fans that Bucky was the rightful heir, and it had nothing to do with the color of his skin. We will come back to this article perhaps in another video, because from there it goes on to cover the new animated Spider-Man TV show, but there is even more controversy around Captain America 4, as it seems Mackie just can't stop. We now turn to Variety, where the headline beams, Anthony Mackie says chill the F out over comparing Red Hulk to Donald Trump. Responds to fan who called him the rudest celebrity. Well, I bet the brass at Disney are happy about this. Let's see what this is all about now. Variety writes. Anthony Mackie told Esquire magazine in a new cover story that playing Captain America is my Oscar because I've been overlooked so many times in my career. The actor says there are at least 4 performances of his that deserved award nominations, those being Brother to Brother, Half Nelson, The Banker, and The Hurt Locker, and yet he was snubbed every time. So he's making Captain America Brave New World as his Oscars moment, as he's finally leading a Marvel tentpole after 11 years in the franchise. He doesn't seem full of himself, not in the least. Let's see what else he has to say. Mackie said, quote, the expectations of what comes along with this role is something that nobody talks about. Mackie told the magazine about becoming Captain America. Nobody really acknowledges the mental jousting that takes place. When I walk out of this hotel, I don't walk out of this hotel as Anthony Mackie. I walk out of this hotel as Captain America. Really? So he's going all method here and fancies himself as the actual Captain America? Well, that really puts his comments from before in perspective and how he contrasted them with the type of man he felt he was portraying. But let's keep going. Mackie said Brave New World is literally the best movie it can be, adding, it stays in the lines of Marvel. It stays in the lines of Captain America, and it's fun and it's big. But one thing the actor is not looking forward to is the politicization of the Marvel tentpole. After all, Brave New World stars Harrison Ford as the US president who transforms into the volatile Red Hulk. Comparisons to Donald Trump were likely inevitable and have already become a regular thing online prior to the movie's theatrical release. I hope as a country we're tired of all the political jousting, Mackie said when asked if fans making inevitable comparisons between Red Hulk and Trump, especially now that the latter is back in the White House. Personally, I'm inclined to believe that he's tired of the political jousting because his side lost. I think he might be singing a very different tune right now if Kamala was in the White House. But since she isn't, he instead continues, let's just go to the movies and chill the fuck out. We could have made this motherfucker yellow and it would have been a problem. Well, maybe you could have made him orange, see if that would have helped. And what about Mackie being rude? Let's move on here. Esquire also asked Mackie about another online discourse that emerged in recent months, one that claims Mackie is the rudest celebrity some fans have met in real life. One story that went viral in social media was told by a young woman who claimed that Mackie once pulled up in a huge fucking truck next to her at a gas station, started smoking a cigar, and then rejected her when she tried to engage him as a fan. Per Esquire, Mackie recalls the interaction differently. He was already having a bad week. Someone had recently found his phone number. 120 missed calls, all death threats. He pulled into the gas station and this woman jumps out of the car and I simply looked at her and said, no, he recalls. Plus, he adds another hole in the story. What idiot smokes next to a gas pump? Well, I've seen quite a few, but that's neither here nor there. Regardless of the truth of the matter, that stories like these are given mainstream attention, because this is Variety writing this, so soon prior to the movie opening, is bad news for Disney and Marvel. To me, it also suggests that these publications are no longer protecting the movie the way they once did. They're still protecting it, mind you, just not with the fervor we have seen in the past. It's almost as if they're smelling blood in the water, and they're getting ready to feast. Does any of this make you more excited for the movie? Or are you more excited for the turmoil, backlash, and videos to come out in the aftermath of its very likely box office flop? Let me know in the comments.